Hey everyone, get ready with me while I tell you some crazy stories about places I've worked. Okay, so first story time was when I used to work in this sort of like cafe bakery, and every day the same guy would come in and he would order a bacon roll, and we would always ask him, do you want red sauce, so ketchup, or brown sauce? And he would always say brown sauce, and we'd be like, okay, all right. And then we'd put brown sauce in, and then he would have it, and then he'd be like, no, I wanted red sauce, and we'd be like, oh, sorry, even though he definitely said brown. And we would then remake it for him. And then one day I was serving him and the same thing happened, and I said to him, like, are you sure you want brown sauce, you don't want red sauce? And he was like, no, I want brown sauce, or brown sauce. So I was like, okay, maybe you actually want the brown sauce today. So I put the brown sauce in, and then again he kicks off and he's like, no, I want red sauce, I want red sauce. And then he throws the bacon roll back at me, which luckily, because this was like post-COVID times, we had like a glass screen up, so luckily it just hit the screen, didn't hit me. And then my manager came out and like kicked him out the store, and I never saw him again after that, which was mad, you know, like thank God for that screen, otherwise I would have had a sandwich thrown at my face at like 8 a.m. and that was when I was 16 and it was my first proper job. I was like, I can't be doing this for like £8 an hour. That's ridiculous treatment. Then after that I got a job in reception, and there was a guy that came in and he was really angry about something and wanted us to sort it, and we were like doing our best to sort it, but he was just yelling at people. Like, he was yelling so much that 2 of my colleagues actually went home early because like they were so distressed and upset by him yelling at them. And my manager has to come down, tell him to leave, and then he comes back in again about 20 minutes later, and we're like, oh shit. And I was the only one in the reception at the time, and I was so stressed because I was like, please don't yell at me. And he just chucks a box of celebrations over the counter at us and then walked out the building. Like, that was like the weirdest ever apology. And I went upstairs and told my manager about it, and we ended up like keeping the box of chocolate to give back to him because we don't want his crappy apology. And then she banned him from the building, which was brilliant. And another angry customer that I had at my reception job, he came in and wanted to see his wife or girlfriend, partner that was in an appointment, but we weren't allowed to say that they're in an appointment if they don't arrive together. So we were saying to them, like, you're welcome to take a seat and wait, but we can't let you go in because she's in the middle of her appointment. And he gets really angry about that, and then he goes outside and turns out he had a knife on him. So I don't know what he was going to do to that woman during the appointment. And he goes outside, and my colleagues' cars that are parked outside of the reception, he goes and he slashes their tyres, which was mad behaviour, just for not letting him walk into an ongoing appointment. Like, we didn't say you have to leave, we just said you can take a seat and see if she comes out. That's just, he took it way too far, and that's just concerning, because why was he bringing a knife with him to come see his partner? And I think their baby was in there as well. It's just, was he gonna like kill her? I have no idea. And then with the job that I'm at now, I work in a restaurant, and the other day I had 2 different groups of adults, so 4 adults walk in, and they were like, oh, can we get a table for 4 please? And these 4 adults were there with all of their children. It was like 2 couples and their children. And I was like, table for 4? Like, is it not? I think there was 7 people in total. They were like, no, 4, just the 4 of us. And I was like, oh, but what about the children? And you were like, oh yeah, and the 3 children. I was like, oh, so table for 7, not a table for 4. Like, I've seen so many TikToks about scenarios like this, but actually having to experience it in real life, it's like, hello, children are humans too. They have bums, they need somewhere to sit. Like, I suppose some people don't think that children are human. And this one isn't exactly a story time about a customer. This is more just about a job, kind of, that I had. So when I was 16 and I just left school, I applied for this job at a restaurant that was opening up just around the corner from me, and I got the job there. Sorry, loud cars. And before it was opening up, we all went for like a little meeting, and they bought us pizza, and it seemed like a really nice place, and all of the staff seemed really lovely. I was looking forward to having this job. And then after a few weeks, like, there were a few setbacks on the restaurant being ready to open, because they had to do a lot of like conversions and stuff, and the kitchen was all going wrong. And then eventually I just stopped hearing from them. So I never technically resigned or got fired. We just never heard from them again, and that restaurant still hasn't opened, and because it was a restaurant before, and then they bought it, and nothing has happened to that building since. It's just still sat there, and am I still technically employed by them? And we also got told that when we went for that like pizza meeting thing before, that we would be paid for our time there. I never saw a penny of that. I mean, they had my bank details, they put me on their payroll, and I have no idea. And it wasn't like a big chain company either, so I have no idea what happened with all of that. that was a crazy time, but I enjoyed it because it was a great excuse when my mum was bugging me to get a job, and I was like, technically I do have a job, technically I am employed, I'm not being given any shifts because the building's not even open. I've had so many odd jobs in my life. My first job, I did waitressing and babysitting at weddings, which is a bit weird. I started there when I was 13, like the summer before I turned 14 in the autumn. That was such a weird job, especially when it was an open bar, like a free bar that's already been paid for. I was allowed to like make people drinks and serve it to them, because there's a nice little loophole in the law that if you're under 18 you can't serve people alcohol, as in you can't sell it to them, but you can make it for them. So when it's already a prepaid bar, I wasn't selling alcohol to anyone. So it was so weird. I had my first proper bartending experiences when I was 14, and also I'd start work at like 7 p.m. and finish at like 3 a.m, which illegal, but it was such a fun job, having to be around drunk people all the time. But at least when it's a wedding, everyone tends to be very happy. Like, there's no bad drunken idiots. I mean, I'm sure there were plenty, but that was such a weird first job. And then after that I went to work in a DIY store, because my mum's a designer there, so I went to work just on the tills, which I was the only girl there and the only person like under the age of like 35. The amount of creepy tradesmen that would come in as customers that would flirt with me, and my manager would be like, oh, she's 16 by the way, leave her alone. That was crazy. And then we went into another lockdown, and then I got the job at that restaurant that never opened, and then I got the job at the little cafe bakery, and then I worked in the reception, and now I'm working in a restaurant. Like, all of that, I'm only 20. Like, you know, in Austin and Alley, Trish was like, guess who got a job at? That's literally how I feel.
Guess you got a job at the Mac store.
Right, I'm gonna put my hair up in a ponytail, take off these spot patches, and then I have work soon, so I will speak to you all later.